Jai Hind students, I am Sandeep Gupta from Sunbeam School Sultanpur, and I welcome to you in this video session. And before starting this video session, I would like to aware you about coronavirus. And nowadays, this is the crisis of coronavirus. It is very dangerous epidemic among us, so we have to make ourselves protected with coronavirus. And if you are suffering from cold, sneezing or coughing, so don't be careless and go to doctor and take the medicine properly. And and you have to, not you, we have to follow all the directions which have been given by the government. And nowadays public curfew, we must have to follow it for protecting ourselves by coronavirus. And now come to the topic. I am your English teacher with you, Sandeep Gupta, and now today I will tell you bifurcation of the book of class 7. I want to tell you how many books do you have to study in class 7. First book which you will study English literature, and second English course book, and third English grammar. I want to show you the book. This is English course book. This is English course book you have to study, and second one is English literature book. English literature book. And I want to show you syllabus of English class 7.
Dear students, this is your syllabus. English for the literature 7th. Syllabus is from March, April and May. And take screenshots or note it down carefully. Second page you have to see here. Second page, the syllabus. And third page of syllabus. And fourth page, March, April, May up to. That's good.
According to your syllabus, dear students, first in the months of March, April and May, English folder, literature, reader 7, you have to study chapter first, the Cratchits Christmas dinner. I will start the chapter first from literature book, the Cratchits Christmas dinner. Now, first, the name of the chapter is Cratchit's Christmas dinner. This chapter has been written by Charles Dickens, and the lifespan of Charles Dickens was 1812 to 1870. First of all, I want to tell you something about Charles Dickens. Charles Dickens, considered to be the greatest novelist of the Victorian era, remains one of the most popular English authors. His works have never gone off print. At least 200 films and TV adoptions, at least 200 films and TV adoptions have been made based on Dickens' works, such as Great Expectations, Oliver Twist, as Tale of Two Cities, and A Christmas Carol. I want to tell you this chapter, the Cratchits Christmas Dinner. This chapter has been taken from the great novel of Charles Dickens, that is Christmas Carol. Characters, to understand characters of this story. And before making you understand about the character of the story, know that the Cratchit's Christmas dinner have been taken from the great novel of Charles Dickens, that is The Christmas Carol. This is very important to you, dear students. And now come to understand characters of the story. First character is Bob Cratchit. Bob Cratchit and Mrs. Bob Cratchit both were husband and wife, mother and father, you can say, of these children. And Bob Cratchit was father, and Mrs. Cratchit was mother. Both are also considered parent. And Martha, Marth. She's a girl, and Martha was second daughter. Martha was second daughter, and Valinda was Martha was first daughter. Martha was first daughter, and Valinda was second daughter. Second daughter of Bob and Mrs. Cratchit. And Master Peter was younger son. And two smaller children of Bob and Mrs. Cratchit, in which one boy and one girl. And last one is Tiny Tim. Tiny Tim was youngest son. He was the youngest youngest son of Bob Cratchit. Tiny Tim was handicapped. He walked with the help of an iron rod, and he was the smallest and I can say youngest son. And these are the characters of the story. And next, I want to tell you Bob Cratchit was very poor. He was very poor. And Bob Cratchit, where he worked in an office. Where he worked, the officer who was the boss of Bob Cratchit, the name of that person was Scrooger Avenger. You can say Avenger Scrooger. Scrooger was a person who is very proud. He always behaved very crudely with Bob Cratchit, and he loved his money and asset. And at the day of Christmas, Bob Cratchit went for inviting his boss, Avenger Scrooger, on the event of celebrating Christmas. But Scrooger refused. He said that, go get lost from here. I don't know. I did not celebrate any types of festival and event. Go from here. And saying this, he said to the Bob, going from there. And Bob came home, and after that, Bob and Bob family celebrated the Christmas event. And how they celebrate, we will learn in the story. We carry on the story. What was the story of? Think that the story of the event of celebrating Christmas Day. How all the members of Bob and Mrs. Cratchit celebrated Christmas Day. On that night, how they celebrate dinner. And the event of dinner is explained in the story. Let us understand how they celebrate. First, first event is in the story. Mrs. Cratchit was changing the dress, was wearing the dress. Nice gown means two times their gowns, but she was confused what she had to bear. But because he did not have any new gown for wearing. That was anyhow she wore the gown, and after that she came and laid the cloth, assisted by Belinda and of a second daughter. Belinda was the second daughter, and after that, Master Peter came. There was a saucepan fog, and there was a fog by which we take chow mein. Uh, and after that, two smaller children who came in the room, and both were tearing, screaming. Sorry, a boys and girl came tearing and screaming outside of baker's. They had smelled the goose. It means they had smelled the goose and known it for their own, and basking in luxuries thought of sage and onion. These young Cratchits danced about the table. It means these young Cratchits danced about the table. They were very happy and dancing about the table. After that, what happened? And Master Peter to skis while he blew fire. It means just beside there was a fire. It was blowing, and where he kept the potatoes, and potatoes was bubbling up, knocked loudly at the saucepan lid to be out of the peeled. And next Martha came. Martha came. Martha came. When Martha entered into the room, the Mrs. Cratchit said that, what she said that, and said that, what has ever got your precious father now? And Mrs. Cratchit said, Martha, last year you did not late half an hour. And next she said that no. She was very happy after saying this. The Mrs. Cratchits hugged her and kissed a dozen times. And after that, she said, uh, we had deal of work of finish last night, replied the girl. Miss Girl replied, and had to clear this morning, mother. And well, never mind as long as you will come, said the Cratchit. Mrs. Cratchits, head down before their fire, my dear. Lord bless you. After that, father was coming. Father means Bob entered into the room, and for the giving the surprise of her father, Martha hid herself beside the closet door. When father entered the room, and father asked, means Bob asked, where is my dear Martha? And the Mrs. Cratchit said, what she said? She said that no, she did not came up to now. Then father said, on the occasion of Christmas Day, she did not came. Why? And and Martha was looking all these things, and Martha saw that her father was disappointing, and she was unable to she cannot see her father disappointing. Then she came out from the closet door, and she jumped and hugged her father and became very happy. After that, and father of Bob Cratchits came. With the Bob Cratchits, Tiny Tim was also came. Tiny Tim was a soldier of Bob Cratchits. He was handicapped. He has an iron rod and coming, and Martha didn't. After that, what happened? As then father said that. What said that? As gold, as good as gold. Bob said, "My dear, you are like as good as gold, and better." I mean, somehow he gets thoughtful and sitting by himself so much. It means he said that sitting by himself, just beside him, he said to sit, and thinks that strangest thing you ever heard. He told me coming. Students, now all the family gathered, and they started to cook. And there is a word had come, goose. And Master Peter who went for bringing the goose, and all the family did work one by one, and at last cooked dinner, and they took dinner together. And I want to tell you what they did. And first one, Bob Cratchit. Bob Cratchit, Bob Cratchit made a hot drink with lemon. And Bob Cratchit made a hot drink with lemon. And last, what did Belinda? Belinda dusted the hot plates before the meal. Belinda washed and dusted whatever hot plates were kept, and he dusted and he made all the plates cleaned. And next, at last, next, Peter. What the Peter did? And Peter watched over the potatoes boiling on the stove. Potato was observing. Peter was looking. Potato was observing on the stove. At last, for Mrs. Cratchit, what did she made pudding? Mrs. Cratchit made pudding. At last, Martha what did? Sweetened apple sauce. At last, Martha made a sweetened apple sauce. And next, two youngest Cratchits, what they did with the hot drink, they fetched the goose. They fetched the goose. Once more, I want to tell you, listen it carefully. First, Bob Cratchit. What the Bob Cratchit did? Bob Cratchit made a hot drink with lemon. Bob Cratchit made a hot drink with lemon. And second, Belinda dusted the hot plate just before the meal. Just before the meal. And third, Peter washed over the potatoes boiling on the stove. And Martha what did? Martha means first starter. She sweetened apple sauce. She made the sweetened apple sauce. And last, Mrs. Cratchit. What Mrs. Cratchit did? Made the pudding. Mrs. Cratchit made the pudding. And last, two younger children. What they did? Two youngest children fetched the goose. They fetched the goose. All they did like this, and at last they prepared the dinner, and they ate together. Mm, Peter and two young Cratchit children returned from the bakers with the goose. Listen it. This is very important. Peter and two younger children returned from the bakers with the goose. And second point is, Bob Cratchit returned from the crutch with Tiny Tim, and is disappointed learn that Martha will not be coming. When Bob entered and he listened that Martha did not coming, he became disappointed. And while waiting for the rest of the family arrived, Cratchit and Belinda laid the tablecloth while Peter surprised the boiling potatoes. And Martha came out from the heading of the closet door for meeting for seeing her father. And a bit in suspense, Mrs. Cratchit got the kitchen to fetch the pudding. Mrs. Cratchit made the pudding, and two younger Cratchits, they also fetched the goose. Goose means a water bird who has been brought by Peter. And listen, next one, by Peter and two younger children. And this was the Bob said, a Merry Christmas to all of us. All of us, my dear, God bless us, which all the family recourse. God bless us, everyone, said Tiny Tim at last. At last, Tiny Tim said that God bless everyone. Dear students, this was the story, and I hope that you would understand very well. And now we'll come with exercise.